All right, all right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Friday Night Prepper Pre-Party Show. We are sure glad to have you. We're going to give people a couple minutes here to get some notifications out, and anybody who's kind enough to sit through those commercials, always appreciate that. I see some people already in chat. Hello, Scott. Hello, Lee. I saw Northern Girl Lobbies earlier. God is great. Tuning in all the way from Japan. Always appreciate you. If you're brand new to the channel, and you find that this is helpful or enjoyable content, please consider giving me a thumbs up and consider joining not just my channel, but my guest channel, who I will introduce here in just a minute. We both put out content that is related to preparedness, albeit sometimes with a little bit of a different spin. And I drop videos twice a week. Usually on Tuesdays, I do either a product review or some kind of skill like foraging or gardening or something like that. And then on Friday nights, I usually do my live stream. Next Friday, however, we do have a little bit of a schedule change. I will be anticipating going live in the afternoon. I have a special guest coming on that I am not going to reveal just yet. You're going to have to tune in later on in the week. And I promise you that that's going to be a good one. You're going to want to tune into that one. And this Tuesday, I think my video, if I can get it finished, I have a new sharpening system for knives that I'm reviewing that is really, really cool. I'm really excited to show you all that. So you all know I'm a big knives fan here. So my guest tonight, returning once again, I think this is probably his 6th or 7th time back on the channel. This is the man who allegedly has broken into the Matrix. Your favorite white hat hacker, my friend and yours, the Digital Prepper. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hello, everybody.
How's things going on your end of the world?
Pretty good. I can't complain. It's warm out, kind of warm where I am in the 90s, all that kind of stuff. Fun stuff.
We're getting tons of rain here, man. It's rained every day since summer started.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, that's why if you've been watching any of my videos, most of my content's indoors right now. It's been really hard. Like one day I went out to film some outdoor footage. I literally got out on the trail and it started raining.
Oh man, that's what happens to me whenever we go camping. It always winds up raining whenever we go camping.
Yeah. Well, tonight we are going to be doing part 2 of our discussion of the CBDC is coming. Now I'm going to drop. No, I'm not. I'm going to drop a link to Digital Preppers channel in chat right now. And he's also got a link. If you're watching this on the replay, he's also got a link in the description. So if you don't have chat turned on, you can go there. But please go ahead and make sure you tune in. Digital puts out some really awesome content. You definitely want to stay subscribed. And also in the, there it is, there's the link. And also in the description is a link to part 1 of this if you didn't get to see that. We're not going to go over everything that's in there again. Basically, in the first part of this series, we talked about the pros and cons and kind of debunking some of that stuff for if we introduced a CBDC. And if you don't know what that is, basically a CBDC is a central bank digital currency. This is something that would be similar to a cryptocurrency in that it would be like kind of blockchain technology. You would use it to purchase all your goods, to pay your bills, things like that. And it would presumably down the road replace fiat currency. We're going to talk about some of that stuff here later on tonight. But there's definitely chatter about this. There's stuff that's in motion. Other countries have already begun to do this on a coexisting scale. In other words, they've got their fiat currency and now they have a digital currency going. This would not be the same thing as Bitcoin. So you can't really think of it like that, only that the technology has some similarities. Bitcoin is its own private, like not really owned by anybody kind of thing, which is has
decentralized, I think is what
That's
the like official word for it, decentralized.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, that's what we're at tonight. So we're going to kind of continue. We spent about an hour on it last time, and we only kind of scratched the surface. And if you're tuning in chat, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in caps so that we can catch them. I know I've got Lee here helping to mod. We might have some other mods pop in. Usually Bacon pops in at some point. And if you would like to have your channel shouted out, just say something to the mods. They're usually really good about putting links there. And also, please be respectful to the mods. They're not paid. They're here voluntarily. So if you want to be cruel and mean, you can be cruel and mean to me, but be kind to my guests and my mods. Okay. Radio Jonesy, thanks for joining in. Appreciate you. Moonsprout, it's always good to see you. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you all. Hope you're all having a great Friday, by the way. All right, so let's pick up where we left off here, Digital. What are some of the signs that you think that might forecast that the United States was moving towards this? How would we know when we're getting closer to this happening?
So I mean, there's a few things going on like right now. I know that from my research, the U.S. Federal Reserve, they released a paper that was like kind of laying out the advantages and disadvantages of central bank digital currency. And you guys can actually like look this up. It's online, out there somewhere. You could like search for it. But in those papers, in that scenario, kind of like what we were talking about last time, the United States, they, obviously would not only print out coins and print paper bills, but they also would issue digital cash, which is a little bit different from, kind of what we were talking about, because they actually mention minting coins and printing paper bills. But, that they kind of have that laid out on that paper, as well as they currently have this whole Fed Now thing going on as well.
Yeah, and for those who are confused or don't know what the Fed Now is, so I see a lot of people talking about the Fed Now is like, okay, this is it, they're introducing the CBDC. That's not what this is. Fed Now is just a way to speed up transactions and kind of modernize our payment system and our bank transfer, the way money is moved through the system. Do you want to add anything to that definition?
No, that's pretty much it. They say it's like a quote unquote viable and favorable option for fast bank to bank payments. It technically doesn't have anything to do with a central bank digital currency, but a lot of people are like, well, if they're doing this, then it kind of lays some sort of groundwork for being able to kind of put that into like in the future. It would put that into perspective.
Yeah, it certainly could be. It could be a building block towards that, right? And so that would be one of the potential signs, is if you start seeing more and more infrastructure and policy changes and things like that being put in place regarding like how money moves and things like that, regulations about how money is moved digitally. Those would be some of the things that I would be looking for, which, as you said, there, some of that is already beginning to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, the next talking point that I pulled up on my research, I'm not sure that we would see this, but it was suggested that maybe you would see public consultations and surveys. I actually would doubt that. Would there be consultations? Yes. Do they care what me, Joe, the voter, has to say at this point? No, I don't think they do. But I tend to be kind of cynical. What do you think?
No, I think I would agree with you. I kind of pulled a bunch of other people as well, like just off of the YouTube platform by itself. And some people were talking about that. What did they say? They said that like the Fed really wouldn't be the main thing to worry about in terms of developing a central bank digital currency. They don't, because they would have to answer to a lot of the like current bank companies that are out there as well, because obviously they're not going to like that if they're basically getting their work taken from them.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking a lot this week about our conversation last Friday, and you kind of blew me out of the water with that comment about, like, in this situation, the Fed or the government, or the Fed and the government hand in hand, controlling all the money, loans, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really was, one of those things that kind of keeps me up at night. Like, that's too much power in too small of hands. It's really kind of disturbing.
Right.
I have to imagine, right? So even if this is where this is all going, I have to imagine that the banks themselves, for now, still have quite a bit of power, right? Like these, you talk about like people that are like the CEO of like Citibank and JP Morgan, and there's a lot of power still in their hands. So I wouldn't see them sitting back and just taking it, on the chin. So either there'd be legal challenges coming from that end, which that's going to have a lot more significance than if you and I, Joe the voter, decides to sue the government. It's really not effective.
Right.
But if you get the five biggest banks in the country do that, that slows things down for sure. So just let's play this out hypothetically, right? If you were the Fed and I was representing the U.S. government, and we knew that there was these five big banks, and they had a lot of power, and they were the competition that we were ultimately going to eliminate, in theory, right? This is all hypothetical, right? Wouldn't we try to figure out a way to make the pot sweet for them?
Right. And that's I think I mentioned something along that line last time, which like the big banks, they could potentially, kind of like tie into the federal CBDC. However that would work. Whether it just be, maybe I don't know, like how there's different kinds of like cryptocurrency out there. So it's, like you have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, and they're kind of separate, but they also operate on like the same block, or they kind of operate on the same kind of like network, the same kind of platform, the whole blockchain platform, right? And I mean, they could possibly do something similar to that. So, maybe you go to your bank, like Bank of America or something like that, but anything, involving approval or denial of maybe, like loans or something like that, not only goes through that particular bank, but it might go up to that federal central bank digital currency as well. Sense a lot of asking for a friend here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of speaking in hypotheticals here because, again, we don't know. We're just kind of guessing at how this stuff might work as it's being rolled out. So, yeah, the more I think about that, I can't see the government and the Fed going to war and just trying to muscle out the five big banks, right? So, it's almost like a mafia war, where you got the five families, and then you got, somebody's coming in and they're just trying to eliminate the other four families or something. It's just, it would be very, very difficult to imagine, like, Citibank and Bank of America and Wells Fargo just like going out without a fight. They would have to be brought in in some kind of partnership way.
Right.
Yeah. These entities, like you talk about some of this stuff, JP Morgan, and like, these entities have been the most powerful entities for over 100 years. Some of them.
They're huge.
Yeah, they're huge. I know, internet will use names like Illuminati or whatever, but I don't personally believe that there's an Illuminati. I do believe in the Bilderberg Group, though. That's a real thing. Yeah. And they meet and they have secret meetings, and we never know what's being discussed in there. So that's a real thing. We know Bohemian Grove is a real thing, but I don't think that like these people that sit on those tables, I don't think they call themselves Illuminati and have like rituals and stuff like that. That's just my personal feelings.
Nah, yeah, I would agree with that.
The internet's going to explode with that one. You can make that one into a short. That'll be your next short. All right. So, and I apologize to anyone that takes offense to that and is going to send me some hate messages for that. So framework changes would probably be like one of those like foreshadowing things. There would be probably collaboration with elements of the private sector. I could see collaboration with our our strategic partners from other countries, right? Like England, of course, would be for sure part of discussions on anything like that. I imagine that most of our European allies would be part of those discussions before it's like even hitting mainstream public. So, again, some of those discussions might happen in like Bilderberg meetings and things like that. Maybe they've been going on for 5-10 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Partnerships with technology providers. This is already happening. And we know that this is happening. We're going to get to some of those entities a little bit later on here, but I think the average person, when they think of, and I know you might not be able to comment on some of this, but I think when the average person thinks of like Google and Amazon and companies like that, they think of the products that we, the consumer, is using, but they also have government contracts that they handle as well. And like, for example, we have here in my area, there's a secret Google factory that everybody knows about. I can't go on the property. And I know from people that I've heard of that have delivered to there that there's like drones flying around the property and stuff. I mean, it's like real, it's real sci-fi stuff, and they're not, as far as I know, they're not handling Google search engine. So, yeah. So there's, I mean, what do they do for the government? I don't know. Most likely handling information, right? Storing and handling information. Does it go beyond that? Conceivably, yeah. So private sector would, technology providers and stuff like that would absolutely be involved in those kind of discussions. Would it be Google and Amazon? I don't know. They've got some pretty good tools, some pretty good toys, right? Like Google has one of the most advanced AIs that's not publicly available yet. But they've got probably the employees who could put some of the work in.
Yeah. And then like Amazon has, like AWS, which, they use for a lot of the internet that that you guys currently use. Which they probably have private sector type stuff, more secure, like government related servers for all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got the talent and they've got the tools to make it work. Yeah. All right, and then the last part of that would be increasing public awareness. Now, we have seen a little bit of this, right? Like there's been every once in a while a story will come up and our president has talked about that, that he was in favor of researching this and seeing the possibilities around it, which means it's probably already being done. Actually, we know it's being done. So like there is a little bit of that. But do you think, Digital, that like if you went up, let's say you just stood outside of like Walmart or Target and you started like polling people if they knew what a CBDC was, do you think most people would understand that?
I'll be honest, not necessarily. I don't think, if you went to, just like a random grocery store or something and just started polling random people. No, I don't think, especially if you worded it with the acronym. But even without the acronym, if you just ask, do you know what central bank digital currency is? No, I don't. I think most people would not know what that is.
What do you think the percentage, if you just take a guess, just like stabbing in the dark, a percentage of Americans that know what this is and have an idea that this is probably coming?
Probably like 20.
That was what I was thinking too. Yeah. 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 So they would have to. So when we talk about public awareness, it would have to be more than just like a couple tweets from the president, right? Like this thing would be making the news every night for like 3 months to raise public awareness.
Yep. So that and there would be, like advertisements everywhere on TV, online. I mean, shoot, they would probably send you stuff in the mail, to have you sign up for it.
Yep, I agree. Do you think they would try to enlist the help of like, people like Kim Kardashian and Tom Brady and Beyonce and Harrison Ford, and do you think that they would do like some kind of campaigns with that kind of thing?
I don't know. Like, because I don't know how they I don't know how they set it up. I would have to do more research on how they set it up initially over in China, because they obviously have a central bank digital currency out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put it past them. I actually was gonna ask, like, do you think that they would enlist the same people that might what do they call it? They might do like the census, go
Mm-hmm.
door to door and
Ooh, I didn't think of
knock
that.
on
Yeah.
the door. Hey, have you heard about the central bank digital currency? I
Uh-huh.
can get you set up right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I thought that they would use like influencers, and I even could see them using like Mr. Beast and like stuff like that, like because there's my generation still watches a lot of TV.
Mhm.
Generation Z probably doesn't watch that much TV, right? So they would probably go to like who's the biggest influencers on TikTok, who's the biggest influencers on YouTube, and I really could see them using that kind of thing to raise awareness as well.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like, if I stood outside my grocery store and I said, have you ever heard of the CBDC? And what is the central bank digital currency? Is that something you're aware of? I agree with you. I think it'd probably be about 20%. If I was to ask, have you ever heard of Kim Kardashian? I think you'd get 100%. You get 100%. If I was to ask, have you ever heard of Mr. Beast? I think you'd probably get 50 or 60%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just they would have to hit it on multi-generational campaigns, right, to get the word out there and to get enough people to understand like what's happening, because it would be such a huge shift for our country to go from dollars and coins to a digital currency.
Right. And that's kind of why, even with the the Chinese CBDC, they didn't they didn't like push it out just like you know this is the entire thing where we are changing over to this. You have to use it now. It was more of a I don't want to say like test, but it was more of like a beta type thing, to where they pushed it out and they were like, this is a new application that you can use. It's tied into the the federal government, and
Mm-hmm.
you can use this in order to store your money, and who knows what other kind of advertisements they put on it, like, oh, it's super safe, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, all that kind of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
they kind of labeled it as more of a test kind of beta thing. So and that was years ago, obviously. But after it's already put out, then that's when you can expand on it and go, eventually, okay, we're gonna eliminate the money. It's now the central bank digital currency now. So if we see something like that, like, I know people were talking about the Fed now, but that isn't necessarily a central bank digital currency. But whenever they actually put out a central bank digital currency and maybe advertise it as like this kind of beta thing that you can use, or it might not even be advertised as a central bank digital currency. It might be advertised as something else,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously it relates to banking.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, it might be something with like federal loans that you can get, but then that will secretly tie into some sort of central bank digital currency, and
Yeah.
then they can kind of expand on it from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be kind of a slow rollout with like incremental steps. Let me scroll back here and check out chat here. I saw a few people pop in.
Mhm.
Scorpion, good to see you. Silver Scorpion, Scorpion Metals. Let's see. I saw a couple people popping in. Dove Season, good to see you. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, cash is king for now. I hope that's the future too. If y'all haven't seen that part 1 of this, I really do recommend it. Like, we kind of went over the pros and cons, and debunked some of the pros, and kind of gave fair consideration to some of them as well. I mean, it's not all bad. There is some benefits to it. I mean, it would cut down on some crime. It wouldn't completely eliminate like money laundering and stuff like that, but it would probably make it harder to do some of that stuff.
Right. And like another example is like it would potentially reduce or like eliminate fees from like banks. When you use your credit card, there's like some sort of fee that you're not necessarily paying for, but the company is, and it could eliminate those kind of fees. But
hopefully. Hey Angie, it's good to see you. Sorry, I didn't see you when I was scrolling. My bad. All right, so next question. What are some of the entities that we know for sure are researching CBDC for the United States?
That's a good question. I mean, like I mentioned, I know, like the US is already looking into this.
The government, the Fed.
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, what do you think?
So we know for sure MIT is. It's actually called Project Hamilton, unless if they changed the code name since then. But that's pretty much public knowledge at this point. You can look that up. I was surprised by some of these other ones that I found out, though. I didn't know that. I'm surprised, but not surprised. Stanford University also has a pilot project. I mean, if you were thinking about who are the best tech schools in the country, Stanford University and MIT certainly come to mind, right?
Yep.
So if I was going to recruit somebody to build a digital product, sure, there's some real good talent there, Digital Dollar Project is a partnership between Accenture and the Digital Dollar Foundation. I don't know anything about either of those. Do you?
I do not. No.
Okay. And then a couple other names that came up. And again, I don't to chat. You're welcome to do your own research on this. I don't know I wasn't able to do a deep dive on any of these companies, but the Brookings Institution, the American Enterprise Institute. We mentioned MIT and Stanford University. And of course, the government's doing its own work, and the Fed's doing its own work. The Treasury Department, the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau have all been doing their own homework on this. And those are the ones that I've uncovered. There may be other ones that are kind of black budgeted. Who knows?
Gotcha.
What percentage of people outside of Walmart would know who Jerome Powell is? What do you think?
That's a good question. Well, I'd probably say like maybe like 30, 35.
Okay. All right. That I hope you're right. I was actually thinking like 15%. But I hope you're right. That would give me more faith in humanity. So Jerome Powell, of course, is the chair of the Fed right now, Federal Reserve.
I mean, he has a recognizable face.
Yeah. He's actually the person on the thumbnail is a caricature of Jerome Powell.
Yep.
Created by AI, actually. That picture. Who would win in a fight? Kim Kardashian or Jerome Powell?
I hate this matchup.
You can abstain if you want to abstain. By the way, speaking of polls, chat, there is a poll at the top if you want to vote in that. We'll take a look at that later on. Why am I picking on people at Walmart? That's a good question. Why do I do that? I was actually at Walmart this week. I needed to get some stuff. Walmart, I don't enjoy my trips into Walmart. There's something about the lights and the sound in there, and it's just not fun for me. I can't even explain it. But they do have great prices on stuff, and they do, there's certain stuff that, it's just easier to find there than it is other places. So Walmart has a place in my world.
Do you think it's like a casino?
I never thought about that, but there is like an overstimulation effect to it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like,
and like you can't see outside, so you can't, unless you like look at your clock or look at your phone, you don't know what time it is, all that kind of stuff.
And to get out, you have to go through this like maze of cashiers. That's like, just like when you're trying to leave the casino, you have to go buy all the slot machines, and yeah, that's an interesting metaphor.
I agree with Dave. I agree with Dave. Walmart's a great place to educate your kids about situational awareness.
Yep, absolutely. You'll see some interesting stuff there, especially if you go in at like 2 or 3 in the morning. That's when the best time to go visit Walmart is.
Oh boy.
Bacon's money's on Kim Kardashian. All right. Next question. And this is kind of getting near the end of my stuff. And I don't know if you have more you want to throw into this, but if the United States wanted to, I asked ChatGPT this, if the United States citizens, right, not the government, the citizens wanted, no, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's hold that one. If the United States was moving forward to this, what would that phase in possibly look like? And we hit on some of this earlier, like it would probably be slow and incremental. There would certainly be some public awareness. Do you think that they would incentivize like early people for like jumping in earlier?
I mean, probably. But it all depends on like what, like would they try and act like a bank and, go like, hey, if you sign up now, we'll give you $1,000 that goes right into your account. I mean, I could see something like that.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's about like the only thing I can see. Like, what else are they going to offer you?
ChatGPT suggested that there could be like pilot programs, but it's hard for me to imagine like how would you roll this out to one area? And maybe I'm thinking about it wrong.
No, I can understand where where that's coming from, because some places are kind of larger than obviously there's some cities that are larger than other cities. Like for example, I could see it be rolled out to places like California, like cities in California, maybe like New York or something like that. It really all depends. It could probably go to certain states before being rolled out to everywhere.
As long as you're using both fiat and digital at the same time.
Right.
Okay. Generally, everything I researched was indicating that like there would have to be a period where both types of currencies coexisted. It's you couldn't just say like, okay, July 1st, we're switching over to CBDC and your cash is no good. You would have to have a period where both, because not everybody's going to be able to click that button on at the same time, right? Like, especially like small businesses and small banks and things like that, assuming that they have a role in this. There would have to be some type of transition period, which in my mind, I can't see that being less than 5 years. But what do you think?
Less than 5? I think it would. I think it would. I think it could probably take longer, maybe like 8 to 10.
Yeah. It would be hard. It would be hard to just suddenly say, okay, as of this date, that's it. Now, after a period of time, I do think that would happen. Now, you said your research said that it wouldn't happen like that.
That they would phase out physical currency
at some point. I think they would, but did you say earlier that you don't think that would happen?
I'm unsure of whether or not it would happen or not. I would like to think that it would not happen, just because I mean systems go down, things break down, and if that were to happen, I know businesses don't necessarily like operate on physical currency all too much, but I mean we still have smaller businesses that the credit card machine goes down and you go to, I mean, actually Walmart, and I know we're still picking on Walmart, but like Walmart and other stores, they have cashiers, they have credit card machines, and they go down. And I mean, you could still use physical currency in order to check out, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. I know if you went to like a small business, then it would be no issue. But yeah, it's just something that like you can't just get rid of physical money. I still feel like at least with the research that I've done, that they were talking about at least that's what they were talking about with the U.S. Federal Reserve, that they would still mint coins and print paper bills. At least that's what they say.
Yeah. I think for sure for a while they would have to. I just don't know what the long term for that would be, because it's the cost savings would be the attraction to, like, okay, at some point we got to shut off these printing presses for the
right.
cash,
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother question, right? Like if we switch to, say, like the Hamilton coin or the digital dollar or whatever, like, does the world still see us as the reserve currency? Because if it doesn't, that's a big problem. And we may be heading towards that anyways. We've hit on that on some other streams, that like there's definitely competition for trying to push the United States out of the world reserve currency status. But yeah, it couldn't happen overnight. Like that would be an economic disaster.
Oh yeah.
Like 8% of, sorry. Interesting. I've heard something like that. So you're probably right. How this would look, from what my research I read, eventually, like little by little over time, if they did phase out fiat currency, it would be like each year they're printing less and less, right? So it's like just not in circulation, and there's more and more incentive to, like, and some of that would happen naturally. Like, so you think about, so my brother is 14 years younger than me, and he doesn't go into a bank. He hasn't been into a bank in almost 20 years. He does all of his transactions digitally, right? And I think the younger the person is, the more easier they're going to be to adapt to this. And so over time, like, there's a natural phasing out, right? Like, so the boomers would probably have the hardest time. I'm Gen X. We would probably have the next hardest time. But when Gen X is all dead, like, then it's not even a problem anymore, like.
Unfortunately, as a quote unquote younger person myself, I can attest to to kind of what you just said. I don't necessarily, I don't, man, I can't even remember the last time I went to a physical bank.
See? And I go in a couple times a month. It's just, I enjoy it. I like interacting with the tellers. I like using cash for a lot of stuff. So I go in and I'll get like, oh, can I have 10 5s and 2 10s, and and but my brother's like, that's fine, if you want to do that, but I'm not doing it, and I resisted things like Venmo and Cash App for a long time. I really, it's just like within the last 2 years that I started using that. I resisted PayPal for the longest time, and those are all like forms of digital transactions. We're still using the fiat currency to back that, but that all that stuff, as more and more people are comfortable with that kind of thing, it's easier and easier to just switch over to a CBDC.
Well, what do you think about like one benefit that I was kind of looking at while doing some research was they were talking about a central bank digital currency would make it easier for the federal government to distribute benefits.
Oh yes, I'm glad you said that. Okay, so that's a good example of how this would start to get rolled out. So as somebody who's worked with disabled population for at least part of my career, there was a period of time where most of my patients were not using banks at all. And then I think it was 2007 or 8, around that time, there was really a big push by the government that they all had to have direct deposit. And man, they did not like that. They did not like that. But I don't know if that actually ever got finalized, if they can mandate that. And that was the goal, is that there was, if you got a disability check or like Social Security or Social Security disability or food stamps or whatever, that it had to be like some kind of direct deposit. And the other thing I was thinking about today as we were preparing for this was, and I was thinking about the banks and stuff. We talked a little bit last time about Medicare when had they changed the prescription program from Medicare to Medicare B, where you had to choose what was essentially a private company to handle your pharmaceutical part of your health insurance. And because I work in the industry, I have to kind of withhold my opinion for that, other than to say I don't think it's ideal when you have a government program funding the private sector. Okay. And that's as far as I can take that. I think people are going to have to do their own research on that or read between the lines. I think there's problems when you take government program that's funded with taxpayer money and you're turning it over to be run by the private sector. There's some concerns there. So as I was thinking about the banks, like, could that be how that happens? Like, so we have the central bank digital currency, but you have to use one of the private banks to do your transactions with it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that might be how they get them to buy in, you know?
Oh, yeah. Because, you know, like if you need some sort of benefit, then, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 years after this, down the line, if more benefits come out or something, they already have their, you know, quote unquote central bank digital currency set up, but it'll be disguised as, no, this is the thing that you sign up for in order to get your benefits. And then, you know, you can also do this and this and this with it. You know, you can also put money into it and it's like a bank, and boom, they got you.
So now we're going back to the piloting question. Now I can see a way that this could be done. So you could conceivably, they could say all new we're just, again, hypothetically, all new disability applications and all new Social Security applications after, say, 2025 will be paid out in CBDC. And then for a time, through your bank, you could also convert that to fiat currency at like 1-for-1 ratio, right? That would be one way that they could pilot it. And so you'd get a small group of people that they could see how this is working with.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Man, we're doing their work for them.
Don't watch this video.
Oh, man. All right. Let's check chat again here. See if you guys have any questions.
I think Dave had something pretty good right over there. They were saying wouldn't be surprised if the only way we can receive our Fed tax refunds this next year would be through the new and improved CBDC. See,
that would be that would be another way to pilot it. Yep.
That actually would be a slightly better way to pilot it, just because you could possibly get, you know, a lot more people, you know, a lot of people. The issue is that and yeah, I want to say issue, but it's not necessarily an issue. But the issue is that people like convenience. So, you know, if you roll out something that, you know, like next year, let's say, for example, you do your taxes and you want to get your taxes back, and they introduce this new banking system that's through the federal government. You know, it'll keep your money safe, and you know, it'll be safe and secure, and you can use it just like you use PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or, you know, any of these other applications. And I mean, people would, I think a lot of people would buy into that just because of the convenience portion of it. Maybe they don't have to wait, you know, 2-3 weeks to get a check back from the government, or they don't have to wait to have it be deposited into their separate accounts. They could just create this one, and soon enough they'll be using it.
I think it definitely has some convenience benefits. There's even for somebody like me who's resisted, things like Venmo and Cash App and PayPal and these ways to digitally have transactions. I can't deny that after I started using them, I was like, yeah, it is very convenient. I can, just as an example, my sister who lives in another state, when she buys a birthday gift or Father's Day gift for our dad, all I have to do is send her money through that, right? Mm-hmm. So it is more convenient, and that's one of the appeals of it. That is one of the pros.
Yeah, but obviously, like one of the major issues, and this kind of ties into digital preparedness, is the whole privacy issue. Mm-hmm. So the difference between some of these private banks and places like PayPal and Cash App and all of those is that sure they do have your financial information, but they're also not sharing it, or at least that's what they say, is that they're not sharing it with the like the United States government or your local law enforcement agency, people like that don't need to know that type of information from you. And that was the whole thing. That's why the whole thing with the whoever it was, I want to say it was either like Discover or American Express that was sharing the information of people who purchase firearms over to the U.S. government. And it's like, why are you doing that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, at least for now, your transactions should be between you, the merchant, and the bank.
Right.
And it's strange and unsettling that stuff's being shared and collected and used for who knows what.
Exactly.
So while you were kind of going through some of that, I was trying to do some research on when the gold confiscation happened, how long did people have to turn it over? And I'm not able to pull an answer just now while we're talking, but there was some interesting other articles that came up about there's apparently legal limits to how much gold you're supposed to be able to own at home as a U.S. citizen. And I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
That's kind of interesting. And, we talked about could the government confiscate gold again? And the answer is yes. Under federal law, gold bullion can be confiscated by the federal government in times of national crisis. Well, what's a national crisis? Anything they decide it to be,
Of course. Martial law.
As collected, rare coins are supposedly fall under a different category. So and I do know some people who have their entire collection is made up of rare gold coins because they believe that gives them a little bit of extra legal protection.
What is the I don't know if you know what is the limit to how much gold you are supposed to have?
Let's see. All right, so this is just like popping stuff off of Google, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm not fact checking it against 3 other sources or anything like that.
Gotcha. Also, Cold War Prepper says gold bullion specifically, not coins or jewelry. So that's also good to know.
Okay. Yeah, I think jewelry is exempt. Yeah, I in theory. According to the CBDTs, I don't even know what that is. Men are only allowed to possess 100 grams of real gold in the form of jewelry and ornaments. Married women are allowed to possess 500 grams. I'm thinking this is from another country.
I'm like, wait, 100 grams? That's like nothing.
Yeah. I'd have to do a deeper dive into this.
No worries.
I'm not sure if I even trust this website that I'm looking at. Yeah, this looks like it's applying to another country, but it which is funny because on Google it started with it looked like it was talking about the United States, but I would have to do a deeper dive. So take that information with a grain of salt.
Gotcha.
Maybe a future topic. All right, so now we are on to the last question here, which was, or at least my last question. You may have other topics here. If we were opposed to this, if the citizens were opposed to this, would there be any way to try to prevent it from rollout? What do you think?
I mean, I'm scrolling through comments real quick. I thought I saw something funny. Oh yeah, there it is. I mean, Cold War Prepper said just stop paying taxes. Imagine if everyone just stopped paying taxes.
Well, that's I mean, that's the problem, is getting compliance from other people. Like I think, the internet being what it is, you'd have a whole lot of people saying, yeah, we're not going to pay our taxes, and then in reality, nobody wants to go to prison. So most people are
exactly.
Pay taxes.
Yeah. I think that's like, and obviously this is, kind of a different topic, but it's, I'm not saying, like walkouts or, like protests or anything don't work. But it's more of like, you need a lot of people in order to push back against something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are kind of complacent. That's just the fact of the matter, is that a lot of people are just complacent, and they will roll with whatever is being handed to them. So I think that'll probably be one of the major issues with this being kind of rolled out, is because nobody's necessarily gonna like question it. They're just gonna kind of go, oh, okay, this is like a new bank, only it's a federally, federal government mandated bank that it could theoretically be better than other private banks because it's managed by the government. Other people might not agree with that. Obviously, I think we all don't agree with that here, but yeah, I mean that's the main issue, is just that that sense of complacency from most people.
Well, most people went along with the gold confiscation, so that tells you right there. And now they have tools such as there's televisions in every home. Most homes have media, and so there would be a massive propaganda campaign to convince people that this is a wonderful thing, and you're going to love it, and it's going to make your life so much better. And most people are going to go along with that.
Right. Or even with like, and again, this is a separate topic, but kind of related to our conversation. But like in Australia, they had a what do you call it? They had like a collection, like a buyback or a collection, or whatever. They were collecting all firearms from people. Because they wanted to get rid of firearms from Australia pretty much. And what's funny is that, and I know Australia and the United States are two different countries, but it was just funny how like most, if not all of them, they just did it. They were like, okay, yeah, sure, here, take all my stuff.
And I know there's and there's a lot of money in firearms, too. So like it's not just about your freedoms and your right to protect your family and things like that. It's some people have very expensive personal property. Sometimes it's been handed down as a family heirloom, and it's there's that element of the ethics of it as well, right? So
I'm honestly surprised, because they have like kangaroos and stuff out there.
Yeah, there's they have way more dangerous creatures out there than we have here in the United States. But I mean, this is going to take us down a rabbit hole that would probably be better served for a different stream. But I actually think most Americans would go along with a gun confiscation too. Now everybody's gonna be like, what are you talking about, Sarge? Like now I'm really gonna get some hate mail. But here's how I think it would work. I think they would put in a law. If this ever happens, they would put in a law, and they would say you have till July 1st to turn it in at these places, and we'll give you a little bit of money for it. Not the true value of it, but we'll compensate you a little bit. And then of course there'd be massive non-compliance, and then there would be some examples being made, right?
Yep.
So and there would be high profile examples. So you would have, stories of like these famous people being sentenced to like 30 years in prison, right?
Yep.
Or like Napster, right? So Napster, how did they get Napster to stop? They made some high profile cases of families losing their generational wealth, right? That's how they got Napster to stop, is they just kept running stories of like, hey, this kid was going to go to college. He's now broke and owes, Metallica $300,000, and so all of a sudden everybody was like, whoa, I don't want that, and so now you pay for your music. Yeah. Right. And so I think something similar would be how that would work. And of course, yeah, you'd still get some non-compliance, you'd still get some boating accidents, and you'd still get some Waco type incidents, but you would get a lot of more people being scared. And then they would do another grace period. Like, okay, we want to give you another grace period. You have the next 3 months to go to these stations and turn in your stuff. But maybe now we don't compensate you because you had your chance to get compensation.
Oh,
and,
yep.
You know what I mean? And so like there's incrementally like more and more incentive to like, I don't want to go to prison. And then you'd have like Mrs. Sarge saying, did you turn in your firearms? Because I don't want to be a prison widow, right? And now I'd have to make the decision, do I value my freedom and my firearms, or do I want my wife to be a prison widow? Right. That's a big choice.
Yep.
That's a big choice, So that's how I think it would work.
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, I don't want to steer it over to that type of topic, but this would be like my last statement about it. But that's kind of how it is here in Illinois, because they passed that whole assault weapons ban. So like the big ones, with the letters, the end in 15, those and a whole bunch of other firearms are pretty much like banned pretty much. Now they haven't like finalized all the stuff here yet, but what would happen is that they're gonna have people, like what you just said, they're gonna have people turn in their firearms, and you either turn them in or you hide them in your closet and don't ever use them. Otherwise, if you get caught with them, then it'll be a felony. It's like, oh yeah, that's fun.
Right. And how would somebody potentially get caught? Well, maybe nobody goes into your house, but maybe your brother-in-law or your sister-in-law who secretly hates you decides to report you.
Right.
Maybe there's a fire and the firefighters see it and report it. Maybe your kid goes into school and tells his friends and the teacher overhears it. There's a lot of different ways that could go bad.
Mm-hmm.
Cold War Prepper, since she's not here to answer that for herself, I will not presume to know her feelings about boating accidents. I do know, I can say with confidence that she would not want me to go to prison. That I can say for sure. All right.
Take your arsenal with you when you go fishing. Yeah, that's
yes.
Yep.
So in terms of like the answering to that question, is there a way to resist it? So, the research I said talked about legal challenges, but as we were saying earlier, trying to raise a legal challenge against the government for an average citizen or even a class action suit is not great. You would need to have power dons involved. You need to have like big banks be like, yeah, we don't want this either. And and they know that. And I think that would be why it would be incentivized for them to get on board.
Right. And like, so here was one of the like responses. So my question to like the little poll that I had mentioned earlier, I had asked what are people's opinions on the central bank digital currency, and like one person had said that the problem is that the opinion is that the Fed is not controlled by the government. It is a private federation of banks, and only one chairperson on the board is appointed by the government, and banks already are required to buy in to whatever the Fed does, I don't see any of that changing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. It's not conceivable that like the banks and the government and the Fed are so closely intertwined and dependent on each other that I can't see any one of those three willing to wage war against the other.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So those were all my talking points. Do you want to add anything, or do you have any other questions or comments, or you want to challenge the audience with anything here?
Let's see. Do I have anything here? I mean, I still think, because like some of my stuff here that they talk about how central bank digital currency will help people that don't necessarily have their money in banks, and I really do not see that being like an actual like solution to that problem, right? And I personally feel that there, like people can still participate in the economy without having a bank account, or without exactly, without having a bank account. There's check cashing services, prepaid cards, and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, banks, you don't necessarily need banks. For some people, banks are a convenience. And it's just, this would be kind of a I feel like it would be a huge detriment, at least to our little part of the world, especially thinking about like I mentioned before, the whole privacy aspect of it. That's the main issue. That's my main issue. Yeah, I don't know. I know some people are just kind of hung up on the federal government owning it and all that kind of stuff, but you can't get past the privacy issue. I mean, shoot, not even Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is stated to be like truly anonymous. That isn't even like truly anonymous. You still have to be careful if you were going to do something weird with Bitcoin. You would have to be careful with doing that. It's just it's a better, more anonymous way of doing things. But I don't know.
They were able to track and arrest the guy who was running Silk Road, which was one of those like dark corners of the dark web where people were doing naughty things with Bitcoin.
Right.
And they were able to track that. So it took them a while, but they got him. And what he was doing was he was basically using a library server. He lived close to a library and was using the library server.
That's crazy.
So for a while, it probably looked like it was just a random customer, and they were probably monitoring the parking lots for a while, and eventually they figured it out.
Right.
I did have one more point that I thought of that I wanted to bring up, and that was, I know Ron DeSantis had recently signed some law saying like Florida was going to ban a CBDC for forever. Well, it's political theater, right? So let's say hypothetically that Florida bans a CBDC, but every other state gets on board. That basically screws Florida. Because their businesses would not be able to transact with the rest of the country. So they'd be shut out, economically a disaster. So it's political theater when a governor or a legislator says, we're not in our state, we're not having that in our state.
I mean, because if it's federally mandated, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think, it's going to happen.
Right. And some people say the same thing about Second Amendment sanctuary states, that like it's political theater when it comes down to it. So, but again, we're kind of meshing two topics together here. Let's start to put a cap on this one. I want to take a look at this poll here. Bear with me if you get an echo for a second. All right, so we did a poll and got 27 votes. And believe it or not, 78% of the people who voted believe that we will begin to see the introduction of the CBDC after the next election cycle is completed.
I can agree with that.
The beginnings of it.
Yeah.
The beginnings of it. I think so. I that wouldn't surprise me at all, right? That we would see some of this. So anyways, starting to wind this one down. What do you got coming up? Anything you want to promote on your channel? You got some cool videos coming?
Yeah, actually. I actually have a another device review. It's going to be for, another one of those network device storages. This one is huge.
Yeah.
That is all I'll say. It's a big device.
Okay.
So definitely keep an eye out for that. I should have that ready either by like the weekend or early next week.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on it. And if those of you who haven't seen it, Digital's been putting together some cool shorts. He did a few off of our stream from last week. You did a really good job with those, by the way. That was great editing.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely take a look at those. And, share them around.
Absolutely. And I'm going to drop Digital's link here again, and then we're going to end with our positive messages and all those wonderful things and send everybody on their way. So here's Digital's link here in chat, but if you're watching this on replay, you can also just go into the description and find that. And I almost forgot to mention, tomorrow night I will be live again here with Penny Prepper. We've been trying to coordinate something for a couple of weeks, so that will be tomorrow night about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if anybody wants to come and hang out. And that's just going to be like general preparedness chat. We do have a couple things that he and I have been bouncing back and forth through emails to talk about. But we would love to have people come back tomorrow night if you're not too busy and join us. And make sure you're checking out all the other channels that were in chat today. Definitely had some great conversation going in chat. Appreciate everybody that came out tonight. And I appreciate you, Digital. You're always a great guest. You're always welcome here.
Awesome. I appreciate you and everybody in chat. Appreciate it.
Last thing I want to say for tonight is don't panic, everybody. So this is the message for tonight. Like, this is big stuff. Like, this is really it. Like I said, some of this stuff does keep me awake at night. I agree with what Digital said, that there's serious privacy concerns here, and that is probably the biggest piece of this. I also don't like the idea of so much power being consolidated at a government level, but bigger than that is the privacy concerns. And this is a huge topic, but here's the good news is it's not happening tonight. It's not happening tomorrow. And we talked about in this video, if you're just tuning in now, go back to the beginning. We talked about what are some of the warning signs that you'll see before this starts to become reality, right? So you have plenty of time to prepare, to think about how you want to manage your self-sufficiency, how you're going to manage your business within the new world. It's not going to happen tonight or tomorrow. You don't have to go and take all your cash out of the bank and convert it to gold and silver or anything like that. In fact, please don't do that. We don't encourage panicked preparing. Neither Digital or I believes in that. We believe in sensible preparedness.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's your message for tonight. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Please enjoy your time with your family and your pets. I hope you get some good weather. We have had rain nonstop since summer started here, but we're finally getting a little bit of sunshine tomorrow. And I think I'm going to go out and catch The Flash. I do like superhero movies, so I'm going to try to go and catch that tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Everybody have a great weekend. Digital, have a great weekend. And keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is the Digital Prepper and Prepping with Sarge.
Take care, guys. Everybody.